activities in this policy area, it's pretty much. So I hope we will have a really fruitful and good cooperation between us. So, sorry. We already started somehow, but now I would like to ask back this mic. Let's ladies, they have mic. This is for you.
Sorry.
No. Okay. So next, what?
And I guess when would she officially start? When would she actually take over the role formally?
As soon as possible.
So right after her hearing, or?
But then there will be also voting and plenary session of the European Parliament. When exactly it will happen, somebody else knows. But I hope very soon she will be able to start with all those duties and activities.
And do you know who will be in her cabinet yet?
Maybe somebody knows, but it's up to her, not up to me. And I'm absolutely sure that she will be able to find the right person, and cooperation between the head of the cabinet and commissioner is more important than cooperation between hers, head of cabinet, and vice president. So I even didn't raise this question, who will be. She will make this proposal. So we didn't have any kind of discussions about this. Next. Yes?
I have a question on Theresa May and Macron's joint plan to fight terrorism. One of the 3 points is to maybe create a legal liability for platforms. So how can besides there's already something that exists at the EU level with the Code of Conduct. So how can the Commission convince member states to stop taking individual initiatives and start working at the EU level? Because there's also the German thing, so everyone is starting to do individual things.
Yes. I don't know more about those ideas which are behind of this short press statement made by Theresa May and Emmanuel Macron, but we all know we have to deal with those issues because hate speech is a hot topic everywhere in all the EU member states, and not only in France, in Germany, and in the United Kingdom. We started already with those voluntary initiatives, and I think we already reached some results, or it was quite fruitful initiative to start with those self-regulatory measures. So, as you know, we launched also a proposal to clarify a notice and action principle. According to e-commerce directive, we have this notice and action duty of care principle, but it is not so clear what this notice really means. Does it mean that you have to tick a box just, or maybe you have to add also your name and then family name and ID codes? So what's the time period that they have to respond? And finally, if I uploaded something which is, according to my understanding, 100% legal, but according to somebody's notice, they took it down, then what kind of rights I will have to protect my content in that platform. So we would like to bring more clarity in this notice and action principle. And we have to act because, as you very correctly mentioned, if Commission will not act, then we will get fragmented market once again, this time when talking about platforms. And this is not our aim. But as much I understood, when they discussed about encryption, then they didn't ask for mandatory backdoors to encrypted systems. But just yesterday, we got the news from the European Parliament about e-privacy regulation and this report, and they asked for mandatory encryption when talking about communication. If somebody else will ask for mandatory backdoors, then how compatible it will be, I don't know. But you know about my views when talking about mandatory backdoors, no way. Because if there will be those mandatory backdoors, sooner or later somebody will misuse those backdoors, and I'm sure hackers will be among the first ones, and in this way we will provide very dangerous weapon to bad guys. So no mandatory backdoors to encrypted systems. Thank you.
Just to follow up on the...
Just to balance. Yeah, there is another person also. We can continue our discussions in Brussels also, but of course, go ahead.
Just to follow up, sorry, on the platforms. This is a question for Vice President Ansip. Very sorry. You said it's time to take action, that the Commission needs to take action against potential fragmentation. What would that action look like? Would that be an infringement case? Would that be, you know, what kind of response, realistically speaking, can the Commission take? Because there seems to have been a reluctance to say anything against the German law on online hate speech.
But this draft law, the draft law they proposed for notification, or is it? Did they have some changes already in those draft law? You know, I think they wanted to change. Maybe they changed already something in this draft law, and I don't think if some ideas are going to against the EU rules, then somebody will hesitate to say it loud, using loud voice. So no way. But mainly, I think those people who have critical views when talking about this very concrete German draft law, they are not so much worried about Germany, but they are worried about some other countries. How that kind of rules will be implemented in some other countries. If in some countries the civil servants from Ministry of Justice will create the right to say to platforms that you have to take down this content within 24 hours. If not, you will get a fine, huge fine. Then is it proportional is my question. Now to Maltese presidency, minister. But I'm really grateful for their presidency, but I said it.
A question to Honorable Schembri. This eve, Malta will be celebrating the end of roaming charges. How do you believe that this will be effective and obviously received by both the Maltese and as well as other EU citizens?
Obviously, I'm very happy, obviously, and thrilled to be here in this particular time. As you know, I've been in office for just 4 days, and so I'm very lucky to be celebrating, actually, this day, the first day without free roaming charges. And so I very look much forward to this event, and obviously to be very proud that during the Maltese presidency we have achieved this ultimate goal, where even the Commission has been working for the past 10 years on this goal. Commissioner Ansip has done a brilliant work also in this regard, and I'm sure that looking forward even to the Estonian presidency, more and more can be achieved even on the digital agenda of the Commission.
Abolishing of roaming surcharges is a great achievement for the European Union. But it took too long period of time. So we started with this process 2007, then 2009 there was first decrease of those roaming surcharges, but those decreases, they were not so remarkable decreases. But last May, during the Latvian presidency, we were able to cut those roaming surcharges for 75%. And it was a real breakthrough. As we remember, in January, we were talking about 5 + 5 + 5. So 5 minutes during the 5 days in a year, roam like at home. Then 5 SMS messages every day, but only during the 5 days. Roam like at home, not free of charge. This was the very first proposal. And then 5 megabytes per day. It just opened your iPad. If there is some kind of automatic downloads, you lost 20. You opened your Facebook account, some videos, 100. So, and you have to be happy with those 5 + 5 + 5. Then Latvians, they said 7 + 7 + 7 will be better. Then we said it's a joke. Pretty unpolite, but we had serious discussions. But Latvians, they just wanted to find consensus. And consensus supported those 5 + 5 + 5. So now we know it wasn't easy to reach this consensus, because situation in different member states is very different. In southern countries, in Malta, for example, operators, they have to make remarkable investments to provide services to tourists visiting the country only during the free summer month. I'm simplifying the situation. And it means they are not able to get revenues during the other 9 months. So it's very natural to ask for higher roaming surcharges from those people who are visiting those beautiful sunny countries only within the free summer month. At the same time, in Scandinavian countries, those prices are really affordable. And if prices are affordable, then people, they would like to consume those gigabytes. Average consumption of gigabytes in Finland, for example, is 15 gigabytes per month. Average for the whole European Union, just 1 tiny gigabyte. So, and if prices is much lower than average in the European Union, then it's also very natural to ask for some kind of limits for those people, Finnish people, Estonians traveling in some other EU member states on their consumption of those gigabytes. Now, I'm happy to say that at least 98% of people, European citizens, they can enjoy fully this roam like at home. For 2%, yes, there are some kind of complications, some limits for consumptions, they have to pay roaming surcharges still, but those roaming surcharges are on a much lower level than they were until now. So great achievement, and people are really happy. In the United States, people, they don't remember about roaming surcharges anymore. But in the European Union, we have a generation of people who knows how dangerous it is to use your mobile devices when traveling in some other EU member states. Now it's over. And I'm absolutely sure everybody will benefit from this. There were a lot of articles talking about price increase for domestic consumption. But in fact, according to our information in the European Union, within the last 12 months, those prices decreased for 5 to 9% as average per country. So if people will consume more those gigabytes, then it's absolutely clear that those expenditures per unit, they have to decrease. So I'm sure also operators, they will say in the end of the day that it was really beneficial. We lost in margins, but we gained in volumes, and it was beneficial for us. It will happen. It happened already so many times since 2009.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Ansip. Do you expect any shift following Macron's election regarding to your digital dossier, like for instance, free flow of data? Or have you been informed about any shift? And the second question about the last Telecom Council, you seemed quite happy with the position expressed by member states, despite the fact that they seemed still opposed to the spectrum and to the BEREC reorganization. Does it mean that you could give up, or you could stop pushing for those two aspects? Thank you.
I will never give up. So I will continue to push up. But I'm looking forward optimistically. And when talking about free data flows, then when we started as a new commission, then we were discussing about just about allowing free data flows. But now our proposal or our approach is more balanced. We would like to provide also guarantees for law enforcement. For example, in Denmark, they launched a new bookkeeping act. According to this act, it's not so important where those companies, they will keep their data, where those data will be stored. The much more important is to get access to those data by tax department if there is legal basis for that. So it means this approach is based on functionality, not on territorial location. And this is the right approach according to my understanding. Now we would like to provide also legal guarantees for law enforcement to get access to those data even when those data will be stored in another country. So yes, I really hope we will be able to move forward with this data economy issue also. About
So does it mean that you have heard anything about Macron's?
maybe it's too early, but of course I had really brief discussions with the new minister and with some cabinet members, Our people, they had discussions, not me personally. And thanks to media, I know something about their views. So we have to move on with those data, even when free data flows. Even when talking about cybersecurity, then we have to say that those cyber criminals, they are working as an industry already. They have free data flows. Even their lawyers, they are in many cases better than ours. So why we have to provide an advantage to bad guys? So I think it's reasonable to move on with those issues, and I really hope with France we will be able to find consensus. Generally speaking, everybody says that deeper cooperation in the field of spectrum is needed. Heads of states and governments, they stated it very clearly. This is something what is really needed for the European Union. But and business people, they said also, we would like to get it. So we set 3 aims for the European Union, about gigabit society, about 100 megahertz per second in urban areas and rural areas, and 5G 2025. All the urban areas and main transport path has to cover it with the 5G networks by 2025, and there was one sub-aim, 2020, at least in one major city in each EU member state, so they have to start to provide services on commercial basis based on 5G. So to reach those aims, as we know, at least 500 billion euros as investments will be needed. But according to our analysis, if we will continue on basis of existing rules, there will be a gap, 155 billion euros. So message is clear, we have to change our rules. And this was the aim of our proposal. When talking about deeper cooperation in the field of spectrum, then we are talking just about timing of spectrum allocation auctions, not when some countries say they can start with those auctions, but when they have to conclude end date of those auctions. Then duration of licenses, according to our proposal, 25 years as minimum. And we know that for some rural areas, even 25 years will be too short periods to reach break even. No reason to make investments. So unlimited, as it is in the United Kingdom, is even better than 25 years. And then coverage issue. So today we know in Lapland, density of population is less than 1 person per square kilometer, but there is excellent 4G coverage. When I have to travel from Brussels to Strasbourg, so there are tens of kilometers by car on the road, not covered with 4G at all. So, but when talking about self-driving cars, and in some parts of the roads, no coverage, then what will happen with those self-driving cars, and so on, other questions. So there was not so much resistance about spectrum. Much more criticism was about BEREC, future role of BEREC. We are ready for discussions about those issues, but we have to move on this is definitely needed. So now it's time to conclude, but next time you will be very welcome in my office in Brussels.
An interview, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again.
Okay, thank you.
Au ministère européen.